This is Terry from Fabric Junction in the beautiful Black Hills of South Dakota. Today I'm going to show you how to create a mitered border. Sometimes instead of doing just the straight borders, it's fun to have a miter, such as this one here. Here is our miter. And what I'll be showing you is how to create that look on your quilt. Pick out a beautiful fabric that you want to use for your border. You need 4 repeats, of course, 1 for each side. First thing you do is on your quilt center, mark the intersections. I don't know if you can see it there, but it is 1/4 inch. So what I did is I laid my ruler, 1/4 inch, drew a little bit of line, a little bit of line, because it's very important that we're going to start and stop right at that intersection. So mark all 4 corners, which I've already marked mine, and I've actually sewn one of my borders on, and you can see I have stopped both ends just before I got to the end. Now when you cut your border or figure out how much border fabric you need for your project, you have to, once you have gotten your length, whatever it is, 36 inches, 48 inches, this one's kind of small, but if it's a big quilt, let's say you need 100 inches, the next thing you do is you allow for the distance of your border. So whatever this distance is, you have to have kind of a tail that long, plus a couple extra inches. I always like to add a couple extra to allow some leeway. So when this folds this way, you can see it's this much bigger. But this will be our miter. Okay, so it's important that you always have plenty so that when you do your miter, that it doesn't come out something like that. I've had that happen when I've forgotten how much I've needed, or either I mismeasured, one or the other. What we're going to do, let me get to where I can get a border. I find the center of the body that I'm working with, the center of my border, and because I have that little bitty extra, it doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but I like to get it really, really close. I pin that center. And I sew. Now I want to sew from the side that I can see my start and stop. So that's what I'm going to do. I lined it up. I need to open this up so I can see actually where that little intersection is. I put it under the machine, and before I start sewing, let me get it down. I like to hand turn my needle down until I know it's going to be right in that spot. So I'll keep adjusting until I know that needle, that looks right. Okay, once I have the needle down, 1/4 inch seam allowance, I actually go about 3 or 4 stitches forward, a couple of them back, because I don't want to accidentally stick something down, so I'll only go a couple back. And we'll take off. Keep moving so it stays lined up. Okay, that's far enough. Otherwise, I'd go clear to the end. I would go clear to the end, and then I would stop right in that cross section. But for this, I want to show you how to get that mitered corner. So we're going to pull that out of the road, line up where you're going to miter, and I line up as much as I possibly can on this. Now what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to turn this the other way so that you're looking at it at the same angle that you need to be seeing instead of a mirror image. But see, I've got my pieces lined up. I try to, even on the end, I try to line up all those little parts. Okay, now I'm going to mark that, and this is how I mark it. I find my 45 line on whatever I'm using. In this case, I'm using my long ruler. I find my 45 angle. I line that, let me shift a little bit here because this is a long one, across the bottom. I find that intersection where I have started and stopped. In this case, it's right there. I line up the top on there. And then I keep shifting until this stays straight. So it's a process of shifting this. It needs to go that way. I go back and forth a few times. Here's where I want to line at the top. My bottom shifted. I keep lining up both of those, making sure that my two border pieces are lined up with each other. Once I have a nice straight here, I'm right in the corner here, I draw a line. Now this is my stitching line. So, back to the other side. And what I want to do before I move this, first I'm not going to cut it because this is my stitching line. I do it this way. Let's see, I want to make sure I'm here to here. I do it this way so that I can see that everything's going to match up before I start shifting, or that I've got the angle right. One of the things I do, I have secured it with pins. I fold it back on that angle and double check any of these points to see how well they're lined up, because I do want this to come around. Okay, you can go ahead and sew it, or you also have the choice. Since I'm doing one this big, and I have so many things I want to match up, I actually am going, oh, I hate trimming it, but I want to be able to make sure that those line up. Well, I'll do it this way. Because what I wanted to show you, I'll show you here. In a minute. Whoops, did I get it? Need to double check that I got it right in that spot. Yep. Yep. Don't want to pull this. I don't want it to shift. Okay, I'll pull those pins and let's see how close I matched up that corner. Actually, it stayed really, really, really nice. My tracks, my red lines, excellent. And it's laying down. I have a little bitty bubble. I can tell you right here, okay? That little bubble is caused by having one stitch in the wrong place. And a lot of times all you have to do is take out that first little stitch that I just missed my intersection just by a little bit, and that'll lay that little bubble or little bitty tuck back down. If you have several intersections that you want to mark, you may want to go ahead and cut this first And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut it, and then I'll just show you real quickly how to match it up. So I'm going to trim. There we go. I'm going to trim this away. Sometimes we have designs that have, well, some straight spots, just like this. Sometimes you don't have any. Maybe you're doing some gorgeous flowers and you don't have to worry about it. But let's say you wanted to make sure that those lines, that you can keep those lines straight. After you mark the quilt, like I showed you how to mark it, measure out and cut past your mark. Pin it, because you don't want the two pieces to shift on you. So do a couple pins, trim it, okay, before you sew it. Trim it before you sew it. And you can double check. Well, to double check, we'll pretend that this is where you're going to make the miter. You don't want it to shift necessarily. So you put a couple pins, but what you do is you go through and you take those lines and you line them up and slip a pin in. Whichever lines. Then you sew. Now I hope that you're understanding that you're doing this all on this piece here. I took the chance of going ahead and sewing it in hopes that my points all lined up because they all looked good. The reason they looked good is when I took my two pieces here, when I was lining up my two pieces, I made sure that I stayed straight here, and I would look to make sure that these were lining up this way. So I make sure that everything lines up absolutely beautiful before I made that stitch. Anyway, you've got your corner, you've got it sewn, it looks beautiful. This is one of the few times that in the pressing I press the seam open. When you press it open, it will lay much flatter when you get up to the intersection. So you press this one open. And I don't normally press the other ones open because I've already got one pressed laying down. I press this open and then the other one will lay down. But this is one of the few times, and if you like to press your seams open all the time, that's fine. There is nothing wrong with that. But I press my seam open and I come back and my corner is laying down beautiful because I took that one little stitch that got in the road out, and I have a beautifully laying mitered corner with the important lines lined up. Now I'll go back and I'll do the other three. I do one at a time when I'm doing my miter, and I hope that this has been very informative for you. As you can see on our quilt here and how it's laid out, this particular quilt is also done with cuddle fabric on the back. I'm going to tip it over. And the fabric is rolled to the front. So check out our video on how to bind with your cuddle fabric that we have here at Fabric Junction. And like I said, I hope this has shown you a technique, a very easy way to miter your corners so that you won't be scared. Check out our other videos, and maybe you'll become a subscriber so you'll get the first shot at seeing our videos as they get posted. Thank you again for watching.